I'm Ashton Addison from EventChain for Investment Pitch Media and the Crypto Coin Show. And today on Blockchain Interviews, we have Tim Swanson, the creator of Tau Protocol. Tim, welcome to the show, and thanks so much for taking the time to be here.
Great to be here, Ashton. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. I'm really excited for Tau Protocol. I know your team is working on a lot of great things, so I'd love to just kick it off with an overview and the focus of what is Tau Protocol and what are the solutions that you're really providing right now.
Great, yeah. So just to take a kind of step back, there's a lot of ideas out there that have been implemented in the stabilization space in the last 6 to 12 months, algorithmic stablecoins, as they're called. This idea basically started from a long paper or long article I wrote at the very beginning of the year on stablecoins, specifically collateral-backed stablecoins. And I was wondering to myself, hey, what if instead of trying to stabilize around US dollar or euro, we tried to stabilize around the synthetic? There's actually been several projects that have successfully done that. One's called Synthetics, another's called Mirror. So certainly don't have any monopoly to that kind of idea. But what I wanted to do was create a capital efficient stabilization mechanism, because something like synthetics requires massive over collateralization. You have to have like 700-800% of SNX staked effectively in order to mint something. And I was wondering just the opposite. Can you actually do less than 100% and maintain that value? So the idea crystallized in mid-January, and I found a group that was already out there building out basically the back-end infrastructure, unrelated to anything I was already doing. I reached out to them and told them kind of what I'd like to build out that would be, I guess you could say, public-facing. And they started putting together an implementation, and it turned on just a couple days ago on Friday.
Wow, congratulations. And there's definitely been a lot of talk about stablecoins more recently, and there's a lot of different ways that people are starting to build out stablecoins. And you're talking about having synthetics to build that out. Can you just dive a little bit deeper into how specifically you are understanding that you're providing a stable asset that's being backed on the stablecoin using synthetics? Because I know you're doing something that not many others are doing.
Yeah. So for this first iteration, and again, there could be, if this is successful, I'm sure there's others who could implement it. The current group I'm working with to implement it, BTCST, they don't have some kind of monopoly or exclusivity around it. The idea is what would be a fairly easy to identify asset that everyone knows about that can be stabilized. And so I chose Bitcoin, not because nobody knows me as being the big Bitcoin bull, but it's fairly well known. I felt that with working with the BTCST guys, they already had figured out how to tokenize hashrate, which would basically create this form of collateral to stabilize, to act as a backstop to what would be called Tau Bitcoin, the synthetic Bitcoin. So the implementation that they've put together, I don't know the exact capital efficiency numbers, but it's going to be about, I guess, 2,000 or so Bitcoins or synthetic Bitcoins are created, and you have a smaller amount of actual Bitcoins backing you. But that's not the particularly important part. It's the having a credible Schelling point. If you guys study economics or whatever, a Schelling point is the point in which we agree that something is maybe that's what the market views as the actual value. And if we look at the various synthetics out there that have tried, like for example, just completely without any collateral maintaining a peg, there's been several successful, effectively capital 100% efficiency. Like if you don't have anything backing it at all, that's probably the most far out there extreme version of that. And I'm not saying that that's bad. I'm just saying, like, to get the market to believe that the synthetic is worth what the market is saying the fully backed synthetic, or at least partially backed synthetic is a pretty impressive deal. So we for this Tau Protocol group, there's just a loose association at this stage. We've been ideating on what could come next. What are some other interesting ways of generating synthetics and having it effectively backed up by something. So I don't want to say it's completely green fields. There's some things I probably wouldn't touch, including like maybe USD itself for legal and regulatory reasons. But I think this is a good start, and happy to follow up with you on what the future ones may be.
Definitely, and I'm excited to see how this plays out. And so, from what I understand, it's not you're not just backing a wallet of Bitcoin. It's actually the hash rate and the mining and minting of new Bitcoins. I know a lot of people that own Bitcoin, and even people that own other coins as well, they're not too familiar. To mining to some is like a whole nother world. And the hash rate, they sort of stay out of it because there's hardware involved, energy costs, all these other factors. And is that right that you're basing the synthetics on the hash rate, and it's sort of like investing in Bitcoin mining or investing in the miners that are doing Bitcoin mining of new minted Bitcoins?
So that would be a BTCST specific question. I don't work for them or anything, but the way a hash rate token works, at least in their case, back in end of last year, November, December timeframe, a group of 5 mining farms came together to support what would become this open association called Standard Hash Rate Group. And they were trying to do exactly what you described. They were trying to figure a way to say, hey, there's this fixed amount of hardware out there. We'd like to create a token that represents that fixed amount of hardware and allow people, retail people, any spectrum of folks, I suppose, to effectively acquire those tokens and stake them. And that would be equivalent of going out and mining itself. So the way they kind of describe the BTCST token, as it were, is a way of actually mining without actually having to go out and buy the hardware. And since they launched, there's actually been, I think, 3 or 4 other projects, large pools, to go out and try to do something similar, although they did it on slightly different networks. I think one did it on Ethereum. The BTCSD guys did it on BSC, Binance Smart Chain, and I've heard of a couple others. But that's the back end, I would call, for this type of project. It's very helpful for being able to try and stabilize this particular asset, Bitcoin, because it creates that psychological awareness. Oh, this token, this synthetic is actually backed by real hash rate. And technically it is. But my point is that that's separate. Like, they were already working on that. I wasn't something that I had any involvement on.
Yep. And in terms of algorithmically backed stablecoins and just stablecoins in general, right now most people are using Tether or USDC. Is Tau Protocol's image to have, the vision to have something similar to that, where you're just having a stable version of your wealth and maybe holding, in the case of a bear market, you switch to an algorithmically backed stablecoin rather than Tether, or is it really serving a different specific purpose?
Yeah, it's really serving something different. The 2 that you just mentioned, USDC and USD Tether, are what we call collateral backed tokens. So they have, in theory, although the New York Attorney General, I believe, has a different view, the theory is that there's a set of bank accounts out there that holds customer deposits 1-to-1 relative to the amount of tokens that have been issued. So if there's like 40 billion Tether out there that have been minted, then there should be $40 billion worth of US dollar deposits somewhere in several different bank accounts. So they're trying to solve an issue or problem that I'm not, at least not at this stage. I suppose I could throw my weight behind some kind of collateral-backed stablecoin, but it's just not something I'm particularly interested in. I spent an entire hour talking about the last couple of companies I've worked on and central bank digital currency projects that they've worked on. So I'm very well aware of that arena, but that's not something. This is my part-time fun job, as it were. I have a day job, and the company I actually work for did spearhead the CBDC arena movement in 2015. So I'm very well aware of the challenges of getting banks and central banks on board, and that's just not something I want to do in my spare time for fun.
Definitely. That's great. And Tim, you mentioned that you're fairly early on in the project. Can you give a snapshot of where you're at and a brief roadmap of in the next 6 months or by Q3 at the end of this year where you're looking for Tau Protocol to be?
Yeah, so I hate kind of teasing too much because I don't want to get anyone's expectations up. And again, it's a loose project at this stage, and I hope to keep it that way. I'm not trying to turn it into a gigantic a gigantic full-time deal at this stage. But the areas that I'm looking at doing maybe for different types of synthetics are areas that are lightly regulated because I feel that once there's enough traction and popularity, dollar values stored in these types of products, if you're trying to, for example, there's a couple projects that have synthetically created like Tesla shares or Apple shares, and I think that's a big no-no because you're giving off the perception to the market that these things are Tesla shares or Apple shares, and yet there's no voting rights to it. There's no dividend, and you didn't get permission from those companies that actually issue those. So I'm not saying I know what's going to happen to those companies. I just feel like that there's less risky areas, particularly in the commodity space. So that's all I'll say at this stage.
Definitely. And as you continue to grow the platform, do you expect to have organic growth, or will there be incentivization for early user adoption?
So yeah, just to be clear, the protocol itself, there's nothing but an idea. Anyone can go out and implement it. So the first group to implement this idea, was BTCSD, and they'd already launched. They'd already did their own thing. I was not involved in any of the creation of that token or the ecosystem that they've put together. I suppose there's ways I could do something similar to Tau protocol itself, but for right now, we're trying to keep it fairly tight. I don't want to call it just an academic project, but it's just a few people at this stage that are kind of volunteering their time, and I don't want to cause all sorts of drama by adding a lot of things at once. So it's a good question. It's something I've given some thought to, but no decisions made yet.
Definitely. And what do you think will be one of the key factors to success for these types of assets to become more mainstream and become as popular as collateralized stablecoins?
So I'm not sure if they'll ever become as popular as collateral-backed stablecoins for a couple different reasons, but that's not the goal either. I think that if we could effectively build and stabilize a few stabilization synthetics or whatever category we want to end up calling this, then that'd be a win in my book. So if we take that and find some other particular assets that are again low touch, low key on the legal regulatory front, and we kind of roll those out. Maybe over time, the aggregate value of those is worth quite a bit, but that's not the explicit goal here. I want to make sure one works, and then maybe try out number 2 and 3. So baby steps right now.
Definitely. And do you foresee challenges overcoming, getting these types of assets and just having more awareness of these and having actually people use that kind of asset?
Yeah, I do. It's the education hockey stick right now. It's very, very hard to. A week and a half ago, there was a miscommunication on social media, and unfortunately, some people spread a inaccurate, misinformed view of what this project is, and I've had to spend a good last 10 days trying to effectively push back on what it is and isn't, and it's been a little frustrating because I'd like to use that time doing other things. I have a 2-year-old daughter, for example, I'd like to spend time with. So just from an education standpoint, I think it is going to be a good path to have to slog through. But at the end of the day, if it succeeds, if one succeeds and the second one succeeds, then I could just say, hey, it's the common quip that's show don't tell. And so I feel if I have a couple projects that actually work and work live, then it's much easier than having me write like lots of tweets or blog posts or things like that.
Definitely, I completely agree, Tim. And for the viewers that are looking to learn more about these types of assets, learn more about Tau protocol and follow along as the project continues to grow, what's the best way for them to learn more?
Sure. So I purposely made a very Spartan website when this launched because I'm not trying to do anything crazy at this stage. So it's simply tauprotocol.org. All I have put there was a very short paper I wrote on this topic. The other, obviously, Twitter at Tau Protocol. I also have my own website, which I've been writing about these types of topics for years. It's ofnumbers.com. And I think the very first post there is kind of a background for what Tau Protocol is. So I'm very interested in hearing people's feedback. If there's ways to improve or iterate, I'm always ears. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Tim. I will leave those links in the description box below as well for the viewers. All the best moving forward with the project, and we will definitely follow up in the near future.
Thanks for your time, Ashton. Take care.